Hi, and welcome to this episode of Highten Huddle. We have a great conversation for you today, exploring cannabis and hemp extraction trends relevant to your commercial and personal needs. I'm your host, Chad Johnson. With us today is my fellow co-host and Highten founder, Shahar Marone, along with our special guest, Russ Cress from PDS Cannabis Consulting Solutions. We're so glad you could join us today. This is going to be a really great conversation if you're currently making extracts from your cannabis or hemp, looking to start, or just really interested in understanding the newest extraction technology and trends available in both commercial and personal markets. At the end of the video, our hope is that you will really understand why there is an increasing demand for extracts, the premium consumers are paying for them, and where the first mover opportunities lie within the solventless dry sift kief markets. We also understand that you're really busy. There's a lot of people to meet and a lot of content in a short window of time. So we want to really make the most of your time. If you only have a few minutes for a quick watch, we've bookmarked the key conversations so you can jump right to the topic that interests you most. Thanks for joining us today, Russ. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your experience in the cannabis industry?
I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in cannabis a long time. I was the founder and visionary behind the widely acclaimed Galaxy Gallery, which was a revolutionary art gallery, funky cafe lounge, music venue, and exotic pipe gallery, which at the time elevated public perception and became a mecca for the cannabis culture on the West Coast from 1996 to 2009. And it was actually the first public cannabis consumption lounge in the United States. That was acquired in 2006. I also co-founded one of the first medical marijuana dispensaries in Los Angeles. That's pretty notable, called the California Patients Alliance. Was one of the founding members of GLACA, which was a self-regulating organization, a trade organization, one of the first cannabis trade organizations probably in the country at the time. I've co-founded an extraction company called Golden State Sciences, which is still operational in California. Paul Daniel Solutions, you mentioned, is a consulting company. I've also done some consulting in the space, using all my years of expertise and my fingers in many parts of this cannabis industry. So yeah, that's where I come from.
Nice. So you're the perfect guy to talk to today, because speaking of extraction, that's what we live in all the time and work in with Highten. But what we want to know from you is when it comes to extracting kief and what that means for craft growers. Why do they do it? What's the ROI there? What are the opportunities there?
So obviously, I've been around kief for decades. And I think it was, more popular at the beginning of my career, and now is kind of trending back as concentrates and are center of a lot of people's focus right now. The trend being on concentrates that are extracted with CO2 or hydrocarbon systems was popularized in the last 5 to 10 years. That's been where a lot of effort has been put. But to tell you the truth, kief, it's probably the purest form of extract that you could possibly attain. And I think the reason that things moved away from just dry sifting, and of course you've got your bubble bag history with bubble bags. That was kind of one of the big innovations 15 years ago or 20 or 15 years ago in making hash. I'm 50, so my perspective is a little older than where the market might be for the younger generation smokers, who are clearly in the sense of concentrates, dabbing, dab rigs, that's where it's at. Hash is typically looked at as a little old school, unless it's in a kief format. I think it's harder to dab or harder to smoke as a concentrate unless you're adding it on something else. So I think 5 years ago, again, I haven't had my dispensary now for 5 years. So it's, going 5 years back and then back even further to when I was, engaging with the consumers and with the market directly. Hash had become more of a old school novelty. It was the older guys who were smoking hash or relating to hash. I think that conversation has changed a little bit because the source material is so important in products now. So having a solid, source material that's cost efficient and efficient to produce, and is pure, like I said, is becoming really important. But as far as being a smokable, I see it more as an additive. You're adding it to your food recipes. You're adding it to your, you're using it as a sprinkler on top of some flour.
Who doesn't love a good moon rock?
Yeah, and you're able to kind of create create a customized experience based on how much kief, what kind of kief, or what kind of you're adding to something, as opposed to maybe smoking it on its own, or as hash used to be smoked on its own. So I think the way you smoke it's changed a little bit potentially, but I see it as being newly viable and coming back because of its purity. Because of the quality of product that you're able to achieve, and if you can efficiently extract it, I think it becomes relevant again in the market, not just as a personal a personal thing.
There's a purist segment, would you agree, that is looking for more of a natural, non-chemical experience?
Totally, and that's the trend of I think that's a bigger trend than just cannabis, right? It's with food, it's with home care products, whatever it is. It's trending towards organic, pure, back to the basics. So I think this is on trend just in general, with where consumer mindsets are going as far as what kind of products they want to consume. So if you're a concentrate smoker, I mean, you've got to have a pretty damn good job to afford that habit. I mean, let's just face it. And then you get into like rosin, and like holy moly,
solventless hash rosin, $95.
There you go. Boom,
76%.
Right. Yeah, and you can see if you're looking at the percentages that, and here you even see the cereal milk, dry sift rosin, at $80, but that's hitting a 75% mark. And if you look at all the percentages of all the other concentrates,
well, it's interesting. If you look just at the one below that, the chemsicle rosin at 70% is discounted.
Yeah.
Compared to the dry sift going for premium. Russ, that's actually interesting, is if you start making it easier to get that dry sift, in theory, the price starts going down because more people can offer it.
Potentially. I mean, I think it'll be a while before you see the market react like that. To there's that many people making kief, or your machines out there en masse, then you might see it start to impact the market. Yeah. But right now it's harder to make, right?
It's that democratization of getting kief. It just takes time to get there.
Yeah, and it's also already going through a process. So instead of just pressing it, they're actually pressing a concentrate, right?
Russ, so I want to take that a step further, where I think it's actually, there's a first mover's opportunity here. If we all agree that, hey, the market in 15, 20 years, if this is where it's going to be saturated. But for those who get in first, there's a premium to be made, just like everything else.
Sure. I mean, as far as hemp goes, I think there, obviously this is a commercial application for hemp, right? And all the extraction of hemp has been focused on primarily hydrocarbon extraction systems, or some kind of cryofreeze technologies that they're using to get your cannabinoids, and primarily CBD, from hemp. So if there's a commercial, just I think the same perspective on cannabis applies to hemp as far as a purity, and maybe cost efficient. Not having to take it to an extraction lab, not having to transport it. I mean, if you can dry sift your CBD or your minor cannabinoids off of hemp at the farm, the amount of time, energy, costs you're saving of moving this immense amount of biomass around is incredible, right? You're gaining all kinds of efficiencies and cost savings there, let alone being able to achieve, again, the more pure product at the end of the process. So by being able to put it in the field or at the farm, I think is a game changer for extracting. So there's all kinds of pain points. And I mean, making bubble hash, which was probably considered one of the most purest methodologies for making hash, is incredibly clunky, right?
Dry time?
Yeah, it's just clunky, and no one wants to do that. I didn't want to do that. Most farms have hemp farms have a lot of problems right now. And last year has been a saturation of hemp. There's been a lot of people rush into the game, and all these hemp farmers are farmers, right? They don't want to have to deal with their product post harvest like they're having to deal with now. They're either having to figure out what to do with it before it starts to break down or deteriorate, because it's a perishable product at that point. They've got to figure out how to store it. They've got to figure out how to transport it. They've got to pay for all that, and they've got to pay for transportation and extraction. We're finding a lot of hemp companies don't have the money or the finances at the end of a harvest season before they've sold any of their harvest to monetize processing or transportation or storage. This is definitely a pain point for farmers. So if they can make a small investment and do that extraction on site in the field, it's a game changer. The wine industry had the same problem, their same pain point, and they started extracting wine in the fields. Eventually, not only for all those efficiencies and cost savings, but it also frankly reduces the carbon footprint of what's going on there tremendously too. So it's much better for the environment to create those efficiencies. So I think there's a lot, as those concentrates from hemp, maintain commercial viability, and the people are going to look for, and it's commoditized, those cannabinoids, those derivatives are going to become commodities, and whoever can extract them the cheapest and the fastest are going to be the winners, and creating those efficiencies in that supply chain are essential.
Well, Russ, it's funny because you mentioned these things about, first of all, we use the phrase pain in the ass when we tell our story of how Highten came to be. All these things you're talking about, the purity, the efficiency, those are all the things that Highten was conceived of and conceived from. But, you've seen a sneak peek at the Highten sifter in action. You know that we've kind of developed this thing to try to make it without solvents, to try to keep it pure, to make it efficient. Just curious about your thoughts. Do you feel like it addresses all those pain points that growers are experiencing?
No, I know it's efficiency. I know what it can do, and it's clearly a game changer. And on a commercial level, it's a game changer as well. You've created a disruptive product by being able to bring it to the farm and reduce that whole supply chain quagmire that I just laid out. But personally, I think if people want to make kief, what are their options? They're not many. And they're kind of commercial grade options. I mean, the bubble bag, any kind of sifter screens, or, you're getting into kind of cumbersome, laborsome type of scenarios that your average consumer isn't going to want to deal with. And when I got kief in the past, it was always from some boutique grower who was using bubble bags or had his sifters, and that's where it came from. So I think the supply was super limited on even getting your hands on kief. So I think this is a game changing kind of a disruptive technology that you guys have that can bring a product to a consumer level product to a consumer that's easy to use, relatively inexpensive, and can make world class hash or world class kief right in your home.
What about those that have, to be fair, there's other great options in the market. There's vibration sifters, there are tumblers out there. How does this compare? How does the user experience of those compare to what you've seen from our?
But those are mostly commercial grade sifters you're referring to, right?
Yes, but they're used by the home guys quite a bit because that's the best option.
Right. I mean, I think where you guys are hitting it out of the park is just your efficiency. Right. I mean, the efficiency you're getting off this sifter is like 10x anything that you just described. Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah. When you get the Highten in your hands, what are you going to do? How is that going to affect how you consume and what you consume?
Well, it'll give me access to kief, which I didn't have before. So it'll change my smoking behaviors 100%. I'll be able to get flower and make a high quality concentrate that I can use for whatever purpose. And I can do it with whatever strain I want. I can do it with whatever strength I want. I can cobble that kief into into my smoking regimens in whatever amounts I want. There's a lot of flexibility in what it adds, and it's actually way lower cost than buying expensive concentrates.
Shahar, want to thank you so much for your time today. I know I personally took a lot away. Really appreciate everyone who joined us and look forward to talking to you.
Thanks, Chad. I'm really excited to see what your product does, how it impacts the market, how consumers benefit from it. And I'm really excited in turn to see, Keef's new rise in the consumer market due to, your having access to your products. So this is going to be exciting to watch.
Amazing. Thank you, Russ. Really appreciate it.